everyone, Karen here, and today I'm going to be making a 5x7 baby card. On the front I'm going to be using this Bear Hugs die, which gives you little bears that go across like this, and I'm going to make them look like they're sitting and peeking out behind a little stone wall. Now to do this I'm going to be using an embossing folder from Crafter's Companion. Now this is an older folder. Anything you have that is brick, wood, stone will work and give you the same effect for the card. Now I'm also going to be using the inverted stitched lace rectangles. That's going to go on the inside of the card. And I also am going to use the letters from here to spell out baby. And this is the stitched alphabet. Now I've cut out some of the letters here, but I am going to show you how I emboss these. So I'm also using from this Violet Studio pad that was 6x6, and I've cut this to 4.5x6, and I'm going to use this on the card, and we're going to do a little bit of inking on here. I have a 4.5x4.5 heavy paper, and this is what I'm going to emboss the wall with, and that should be heavy paper because the embossing just comes out better on heavy paper. I have a red piece of scrap to finish the letters. I have a 1 3/4x6 out of craft card that I'm going to cut the bears out of. I have a 4 3/4x6 3/4, which is going to be my mat. I have a 5x7 card base, and then I have a bigger piece of the same color red that I'm going to be cutting a piece for the inside of the card. Alright, so let's get started here with the front. Alright, so I'm going to take the edgable here and my craft card, and I'm going to cut this out. So I'm going to lay this down like this so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm just going to lay this across here. I'm going to put some tape on it. And I'm just going to cut this out. I'm going to put it right here on the top. Put some tape on. I'm going to be using my midi today. I'm just going to lay this on here. Now, even though this is the midi, I can use the mini folders in here because they fit in here just fine. So you absolutely can use midi and mini folders in here. And I do that a lot. Alright, so now we have our little bears all cut out. And let's put this to the side. Now I need to cut out from here one more letter because I have B, A, and Y, but we need two B's, so I'm going to cut out the second B. With this red paper. So we're going to do two things with this paper. First, I'm going to cut it out, and then I'm going to emboss it. So first, let me run it through here and die cut it. Alright, I'm going to leave it in here. I'm now going to bring in a piece of my embossing mat from my Pro that I had put a hole in it. So I cut it down to the same size as the mini shim. I'm going to place the B on here. And I'm going to take half the folder. So I'm going to leave this folder open. I'm going to put it on top like this. And I'm going to run it through the machine like this. So I'm only putting half the folder, the other half of the folder is laying here. And if you do that, you can emboss with your mini and your midi. So now let's look. Let me get my pokey tool. And get that out of here. And let me hold this up here. And you can see it did absolutely emboss that. And it didn't put any stress on the machine. It worked just fine. Alright, so the next thing I want to do is get this bear ready. So I want to cut this to 4.5. But I want to make sure I cut it to where I'm not cutting off a half of a bear. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my little scissors, and this bear hair on the end, I'm going to snip him off. And I'm just going to follow the curve and just snip him off. So now I need to decide where exactly I want to cut this. So I am going to bring this to 4.5. Now see, if I bring it to 4.5, I'm cutting off his head. So I don't want to do that. So I want to bring it over a little bit more. So I'm going to bring it over to just past 4 3/4. And I'm going to bring that down. And then I'm going to come to the other side. Now I will bring this to 4 1/2. So now we're good on this side. I have a little bit of space here. And I'm going to fold this down so you can see where I'm cutting this. So I'm going to be cutting this much off of here. So that will pretty much center my bears. So we're going to go to 4 1/2 and bring that down. So now I want to bring in the 4 1/2 by 4 1/2. And I need to cut it in the same spot so I can match this curve. So if this is sitting here like this, this would sit on here like this. Let's just get it in the spot. Line it up to where it's in the middle. Actually, we're just going to bring it side by side here. Alright, so let me show you what I did here. So I put this back in the die. Now that we've cut this to 4 1/2, I'm going to line up the die end to end on top of the blue, because this was 4 1/2 and the blue was 4 1/2. So this is where I need to put it to line everything up. I'm going to put my finger here so I keep it in place and pull that out. Now I will tape this down. Bring the midi back in. Put back in the folder. And I will run this through. Alright, so now I have this. Alright, so now I'm going to use these bear's hair. So those match up here. So I will need to snip off this little bit of bear over here. And I will need to cut all of these bears off. And just follow the slope of this line. Here we go. So now this will fit back here. And I am going to bring it down lower, the brown. I'm going to bring the brown lower because I do want it to look like the bears are peeking up behind the fence, behind the wall, I should say. So the next thing we want to do is, now that this is all cut, now we can emboss it. So now I'm going to lay this in the embossing folder, lay this down, make sure I have it going in the right side, and we will run this through the machine. Right, now this is a 2D folder, so I will need the shim, and I will run that through. Alright, so now we have our wall, we have our bears, and we have this piece here to make the front of our card. Now I do want to put some ink on this just to give it a little bit more interest, so I will be using, I believe, Misty Morning. I may need to go a little darker. I'm just going to grab a little piece of scrap to put it on. I'm going to ink up. And I'm just going to lightly go over the top. Now I am using the sponge and not a brush because I don't want to go too deep on here. I want to make it look like the blue is the cement or concrete in between the stones. So I just want to color the stones. all the stones don't have to be the same color, because when you have a stone wall, all the stones aren't the same. So some can be darker, some can be lighter. And there we go. I think that is probably pretty good. A little bit more color here. And I think we're good. We now have our brick wall. Our stone wall. That's how many times I can say brick. All right. So now we're ready to start constructing the cards. Let me pick up all my little pieces here. And we'll start putting this together. All right, so we have our wall. We have our bears. We have our banner paper. And actually, I want to put a little bit of blue on here. All right, I'm going to bring in ocean blue. And I am just going to put a little bit of color on here just to get rid of some of that white. Because if these little bears are outside, the sky wouldn't be white, it would be blue. But these colors are muted and they're very, very subtle. So I just want to put a little bit of blue on here, just so it looks more like sky. There we go. That's a lot better. All right, now we're ready to put it together. All right, so I'm going to start with the 4 3/4 by 6 3/4 piece of blue, because this piece is only 6 inches long, because I am trying really hard to use up all of my 6-inch paper pads. And so I am trying to think of many ways to incorporate them into bigger 5 by 7 cards. So I cut this to 4.5 by 6. And I'm going to line this up on this paper on the sides and the top. It's going to get that centered to where the spacing is the same on these 3 sides. And I'm not going to worry about the bottom because I'm going to cover that in a second. Now before we glue these 2 pieces together, I want to fill in these little bears' heads. So you can see they have holes. Now if you want to, you can fill them in with little pieces of paper. And I found the best size for this was 1/2 inch by 1/4. So I'm just going to use my trimmer here and cut one so I can see how big of a piece I need. So this was 1/2 by 1/4. And now I can just kind of take my paper here and just snip some pieces the same size. So once again, 1/2 by 1/4. And I need, how many bears do I need? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I need 2 more. Here is 1. And we'll cut another one. All right, that should do it. So let's glue their heads on. So we're just going to come back here. This little bear just needs a nose. The next one needs a whole face. And you just want a piece of paper small enough to just fit behind here. But the 1/2 inch by 1/4 inch fit pretty good. There we go. This bear just needs a nose. This one just needs a nose. So we can put a small one on there. And some right here. All right. Now there is one more detail on this die. You'll notice there's holes here. There you go. And they're for his ears. So I'm going to slide this back in place. I have to flip it over. There we go. Lay this down, make sure it doesn't slide out. And I am going to color his ears. And I'm going to just make the ears black. Oh, that's shifted. Let me make sure that's in there good. All right. And I'm just going to color in that little spot there. Now you can use any color you want for this. I'm just going to use black. You could also emboss this if you wanted to. So there's his little ears. There we go. Just like that. So now we're ready to glue this on. So I'm going to run glue across here. And I'm going to put this on here, and I'm going to put it up high enough that it looks like the bers are hiding behind the little wall. There we go. Alright, so let's bring in the 4.5 by 6.5 that we glued to the front of the 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. And now this is going to go up on the foam. I'm going to use 1/16 foam. And I'm going to put a piece across the bottom. I'll put a piece over here. One across the middle. And that will probably do it. Push this down really good. Pull up all the backing paper. Now I want to line this up. I want to make sure that the sides are lined up. And the bottom space here is like the space on these 3 sides here. And put that down. So now I've taken the 6-inch piece of paper and used it for the whole entire 5 by 7 card. And the next thing I want to do is I'm going to take the letters baby, B, A, B, and Y. And I'm going to put these across the front here. And I don't think I want to line them up. I think I want to put them kind of staggered across the front, like that. I just want to make sure the Y and the B are equal distances from the edges here. So we'll put B, and I'll put the Y down. So if this was down, this was up, this was down, this one will be up, about there. Now the A and the second B will go in the middle. Right, so this one, down, up, down. All right, the second B will be here. Bring that up a little bit, I think. There we go. So there's our front. So now we just have to glue this to the card base. So go on like this. There we go. We have our little bears with little banners with the word baby on the front. Now for the inside, I want to use this inverted stitched lace rectangle. Now I have some wording all printed here. But what I want to do, I believe I want to use this middle set here. Yeah, this is the size I want. Alright, so I'm going to center this the other way on here. I think I want that like that. Tape this down. Alright, center it. Tape this down. I'm going to go ahead and cut this bottom part off. Now this time I'll grab my MIDI folder and we'll run this through. Now we have that all centered. Now I'm going to take the red piece, which matches the letters here, and I'm going to cut this piece out. I'm going to need that and this piece together. Because this die here doesn't have an outside edge, it would just cut into the paper. So I'm going to need to put the two of these together. Get these all lined up. I want even spacing all the way around. Okay. There we go. Now we'll run this through. So this gave me a frame, which is the same size as this paper here. So now I just have to glue this to the edges here. But let me poke out all these pieces first. Have a couple that stayed in here. And there's one more over here. Now we'll just put some glue on the back of this. And I'm just going to go along this solid place here. I don't need to attach all the little lace trim there, the little scalloped edges. Just go along the edge there. And have this here. Match up the sides, since this is the same size. That. Here we go. So we have a nice little frame for the inside. Oop, I did miss one here. Let me get that out before the glue dries. There we go. Now we'll just put some glue on the back of this. And this will come in here. There we have it. With the little edgable here, looking like they're peeking over a wall with some banners behind them. Welcome to the world, little one. May your days be filled with snuggles, giggles, and teddy bear cuddles. You're already so loved. And there you have it. If you like this card, please give me a thumbs up, and please consider subscribing to my channel. And until next time, stay crafty.